San Jose Unified has approximately 32,000 students. We are a K-12 district. We have 28 elementary schools and we have 12 secondary schools, including middle and high school, with a continuation school and a community day school. We're approximately 51% Latino, 36% Caucasian, and then a mixture of everything else there, with over 80 different languages spoken.
San Jose Unified is a very progressive district. We were the first to go A to G requirements for all students. We were very active in the Equity 2000 movement, which was a movement to get all students into Algebra 1 by the 9th grade. And we are currently one of the few districts in the state of California that has a board equity policy, and everything we do now is under the umbrella of equity for all students.
Before A through G, San Jose Unified School District was very similar to most school districts, if not all school districts across the United States. Low rigor, low expectation, and only the select few made it into college.
There was no real common focus of the district. We just kind of all did what we did. Every site was kind of on their own. There was no unifying vision for the district. Even though we had a slogan, all students can learn, all students can succeed, nobody really bought into it. The A to G movement really unified the district and gave us kind of a guiding light to follow.
So when we refer to A through G, it's the 15 minimum classes that you need to take with a C or better to be accepted into the University of California or the California State University system. Well, Dr. Linda Murray was superintendent of San Jose Unified when I joined the administrative team back in 1996. And so the conversation around A through G really was born out of her passion and will to provide a system across the entire educational organization to allow all kids the opportunity to be college ready.
Many of the math teachers thought raising the bar was going to be difficult, that the students wouldn't be able to meet this new requirement of them. And I was as well. And I had the first class of students to graduate A to G, and I had them in my Algebra 2 class. And I believe that was when I had them in Algebra 2, it was the first year we were requiring all kids to take Algebra 2. I thought that I would be struggling with that class of kids, and I didn't. These were kids who I'd had some in Algebra 1, some in geometry, and some were brand new to me. But I didn't find that they weren't able to handle it. It wasn't like one year I taught Algebra 2 and everybody was really prepared, and the next year they weren't. Again, it just seemed like it happened seamlessly. And I remember the class distinctly because they then went on, and the next year took pre-calculus, and our numbers of pre-calculus kids grew exponentially because we had so many kids successful at the Algebra 2 level. So the rollout at the site was really around that first group of kids when they took Algebra 2. We were all holding our breath, thinking that they wouldn't be able to do it, but they did. And many of them went on to four-year college, and many of them I've seen since then, they're all in careers.
Napa Valley has a reputation worldwide and is well known for its wines, restaurants, and spas. And as a result, has attracted a workforce to this community to make all of those things happen at a world-class level. And those families who come to us are oftentimes parents who haven't completed high school. They come from, many of them come from Mexico, and blend in with our community like any fine wine, with parents who've had a high level of education and whose children are college bound. So we have about 17,000 students in our district. We have 3 high schools, comprehensive high schools, another high school that's a magnet high school. Our demographics reflect pretty much what's going on elsewhere in California. But about 60% of our incoming kindergartners don't speak English as a first language. So that's a demographic that we've seen increase in the last few years. And our high schools, prior to our work with Ed Trust West, had followed pretty much a very traditional high school where students could or could not opt into taking college prep curriculum. We heard about the work of Dr. Murray when 2 of our principals came back from attending a presentation by Ed Trust West where she was the director. and were very excited to learn about what had gone on in San Jose Unified School District, to the point where they came and presented to the executive cabinet, to the other high school principals, and pretty much wanted to know, what is it we need to do in Napa to make this happen here? It was as we went through this process that we began to learn more about the need to have a curriculum that was more rigorous for all of our students, no matter what their path was that they chose when they finished high school, because the world had changed. One of the things that Dr. Murray brought to Napa was a process and a protocol. Our question was, what is this about, and how do we make it happen? And she showed us how to make it happen. And the rollout this year actually was rather smooth. So, introducing all of our incoming 9th grade students to a new requirement in the graduation and how your course sequence will look is so far so good. And as next year's class comes on board, they will continue with this first requirement, and then we'll be adding another one. So this is the first class that will be working its way through the system, and the subsequent classes will be coming on board, and then we'll be tweaking it a little bit for them. So it's going slowly, and I think sometimes it's really important to go slow to eventually go fast, and we're already seeing results.
Before San Jose Unified School District started down the path of A to G for all students, they were very much like most school districts in America today. Some students, principally those who were white or from affluent families, were educated as though they were bound for college and got a pretty darn good education. Other kids, especially those who were from low-income families or children of color, were educated to a much lower standard and weren't prepared, frankly, for very much of anything. As a country, we've fallen behind much of the rest of the developed world in the proportion of our kids who get a college education. If we're going to have any kind of chance in the new kind of internationalized economy, we've got to turn that around. But what that means is not just colleges recruiting more kids to come, but it means high schools stepping up and preparing them to succeed once they get there. What this book does is provide a practical set of tools for schools and school districts that actually accept that new responsibility and want to move all of their kids toward readiness for college.
I think that the work that Dr. Murray has done is significant, and I call it transformational reform because people throw out the word reform all the time, but all it is tweaking the system, and when you tweak the system, you're not making any systemic change. A through G is a systemic change.
I will never forget a kind of a rally that Linda had with her teachers at the very beginning of the school year. She invited me to come speak, but before I spoke, she did. And when she talked about the mission they were on to get all kids through this A to G college-ready curriculum, this teacher stood up and cheered. My jaw just dropped. I had never seen anything like that before. And that kind of harmony with which the district went about this very tough, very challenging, and normally very controversial work was just stunning.
One of the things that I've really learned through A to G requirements for all is that we have many practices that are almost institutional racism that block kids from entering classes that would get them into college or entering higher level classes. So we have systems set up that just block kids along the way. A to G requires us to knock down those blocks and to open up those classes to kids.
By believing in students, by giving them rigorous coursework, by challenging them, not only do you validate your faith in them through the results that you see, but that they up their game and that they are able to, in many ways, become their own best advocates. And in the end, they're the ones who have benefited from this change.
There's sort of two important aspects of this book. One is the very compelling story that it tells of what happens when a leader with large involvement from community, from teachers and principals, kind of moves on this very important track. And it shows a lot, I think, what ethical leadership looks like. But there are also a wonderful set of tools in this book, very concrete, very practical, usable tools that other superintendents, other principals can use in their own efforts to move kids toward a college-ready curriculum for all.
If we're truly Our mission is truly to prepare young people to graduate and move into the world of work and to be good stewards of this nation. We have to do the hard work of reforming the way we do business. Our children live in the 21st century. Our classrooms shouldn't reflect the 19th century. We have to start making sure that those two systems align. When they walk through the classroom door, that the inside of the classroom looks very much like the world they live in outside and prepares them for that next step in their life. So this work is hard, but it's worth it because it's about kids, and they're worth it.